So my name's David Reid. I'm an RGU student studying architecture, and I'll just be going into my final year of my master's course in September. Yeah,
Okay, that's nice. Nice to meet you, David.
nice to meet you, mate.
So, you live in Aberdeen, right?
Yeah, I've been here for 4 years now. Yeah, 4 years, I think. Yeah.
We as well. That's a pretty long time.
Yeah.
So, David, so you live in Aberdeen for the past 4 years. I'm sure you've had an encounter with some black people living in Aberdeen as well, and other people from other race. So, what would you say it is like being a black in Aberdeen?
Uh, what's it like for? I mean, obviously, I can't speak for them. I mean, I was quite lucky. I worked in hospitality for over a decade, and only left recently in November. So, working in hospitality, you work with people from every background and any background. You work from Eastern Europeans, coloured people, all sorts. Just from my point of view, obviously, I'd say it must be in some regards kind of quite lonely, because there's just not that many black people in Aberdeen, you know. So the few friends I've had that have been black, I don't know. I think they've probably struggled to fit in a little bit at times, just because, especially being up north, I think there is sometimes a shock still when people see a black person out, or if they see someone out like in a hijab, you know, just anything that's not the white person out. It stands out so much in Aberdeen, and the same with kind of other rural communities up in the north of Scotland. So I imagine it must be pretty tough. Yeah.
Um, was looking at the global issue going on now in the US and other parts of the world. Uh, do you feel that people in Aberdeen can relate to similar issues, or because it is assumed that Aberdeen is a it's a peaceful city where there are just minor racist activities. But like what you said, it's been pretty tough for some black people living in Aberdeen. So I've had some testimony from friends who have been involved with racist activities in the bars, at the restaurants, on different places. So I remember you posted something on your Facebook page,
Yeah.
which someone actually tagged me on the page. A friend of mine tagged me on the page, and I went to see it and I read it, and I was like, wow. I was
Yeah.
like, wow. I was like, the first question I asked was like, "Is this in Aberdeen?" And it was like, "Yeah, it's
Yeah.
in Aberdeen." I was like, "Wow." I was like, "Wow." So I want to first of all, I want you to tell me what inspired you to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about inspired. I think I watched the 9-10 minute George Floyd video, and that was so hard to watch. You know, it's unreal. And then like the two weeks later, I think it was, I kind of got a bit obsessed with it, to be honest, because I'm quite into my American politics and news in general, and they just kept feed after video feed of protests, and then just insane police brutality straight back at it. And then obviously the more you watch YouTube, the more you watch these things, the more the algorithm starts to spew up, here's something else you might want to watch. So you start then seeing more and more videos from, I think one of the channels is Now This, is quite a big one about it. And you just start seeing incidents with black people going back a year, 2 years, 3 years. You just start to see more and more of this injustice. And I just became so angry. Became so angry. There was nothing that I could do about it. Yeah, I could post something on Facebook, but that's probably not going to change the world. And then you get the backlash of, you're just saying this on Facebook and not doing anything. So I thought to myself, I need to show some kind of support. I need to do something, and I want it to have some kind of impact. I'm quite lucky. I live in a really nice area. It's next to the park, Duthie Park, and it's on a busy bus route as well. There's lots of families going by and things. So I thought, if I can do something that maybe kids or something see and ask their parents, what does that mean? Why is that up? That might spark a conversation. That might do something. But you know, yeah. That's the hope.
But you see, actually, it's interesting. It's good that people from white folks like yourself are actually supporting this call, because I feel that this is not just about Black lives; it's about humanity.
Yeah,
In this 2020, this kind of situation shouldn't be happening. But I'm just glad because not all white folks are racist. There are
yeah,
white
no,
people that, yeah, there are white people out there that are supporting this call. So I want to know what how did you feel when your landlady called you or sent you a message? Oh, first of all, let's just hear a brief of what actually happened.
yeah. So what I decided to do was I actually ordered some plastic black tablecloths from Amazon, and I ordered some white I think it's plumbing tape, and I basically cut it up, and I just did a giant B, a giant L, and a giant M, and I put it up in my window on Tuesday, and it kind of worked nicely because it also blacked out my room, so it was kind of part of like my own blackout Tuesday experience type thing, and I even thought, because in my head I had the idea that, this might put some people's kind of heckles up. This might upset some people because there's old people and there's conservatives everywhere. So I thought, you know what? I'll put a Scotland flag up as well. So I'll have a Scotland flag and then BLM. And I thought, if I've got the Scotland flag up there, then everyone can get behind that, surely. So I put that up. And then about 3, 4 hours, not days, hours later, I get a text message from my landlord saying that one of the neighbours who spoke to her about the poster that I put up, and another had taken a picture of it, and that she wanted me to take it down because she didn't want. She said that she respects everyone's beliefs, but that she wanted me to take it down because she's been in the neighbourhood a long time, and she wants to respect everyone's beliefs. Um, and full disclaimer, my landlord is a lovely lady. She's genuinely helped me out a lot during the COVID, and I've only been in the flat for about 6 months now. She's been amazing, fantastic. I don't think she has any issues with it at all. She just wants to keep her neighborhood and her friends and her neighbors happy and stuff like that. But reading that text message, uh, my blood boiled. I couldn't believe it because I thought I had done something. I mean, I was embarrassed that I'd done something so small. It wasn't really ending. It wasn't ending over the top at all. And even that was getting pushed back on. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
That's appalling though, because actually for you trying to support this call, and it's not like you're a Black person putting that thing there. At least your
Yeah.
neighbor they know you very well, and you've not had any issue with them.
Yep.
But just because you're trying to support this race for humanity, they fear that it might cause any kind of disturbance to them. But actually, there were some interesting comments when I saw interesting comment below your post on Facebook. I realized that a lot of people were against it. They were like, "No, why should they do this? Why should they do this?" So I kind of felt a bit comfortable so I had to tag my station manager Greg. I had to tag him to see, and
Mm.
he saw it. That was when he contacted you about it, and then I'm really glad that people were actually supporting this.
Yeah.
People are actually happy about it. That's no, we have to stop this now because it's we've been having this issue for a very long time. We've been having this discussion for a very long time. If we are not able to stop this in 2020, then it will be difficult for us to stop it because there's a global pandemic happening out there with the coronavirus all over. I
Yeah.
think the coronavirus actually made us realize that we are all equal because it does not discriminate
Yeah.
whether black or white. If you expose yourself to it, you get in touch with it. So it's sad though. It's sad to hear stories like this. In as much as some of you guys are trying to support this call, others are also against it. So on Saturday there was a protest in Aberdeen
Mm.
against, like, there was a march to towards about the Black Lives Matters, and there were actually an anti-protestant also that were against the march.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
so honestly, I wasn't surprised looking at your post on Facebook. And seeing those people, I wasn't surprised, and I get it dawned to me that indeed there are people that are against this humanity.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It feels bad for me.
See,
I'm glad because of you.
you weren't surprised at the anti-protest.
Yeah,
I was. I was really shocked because I thought, well, okay, I can understand a couple of neighbors, maybe elderly, that might
yeah,
be like, oh, we don't want to see that in our windows. This is a nice neighborhood. We don't want to see that kind of thing. But I thought, when you looked at the anti-protest people, it wasn't elderly. It wasn't all geriatrics out. It was it was middle-aged people, and that was really disheartening. Because I think sometimes we like to think of Scotland as being a bastion of freedom, and we're so much better than what you sometimes see here in England and things like that. And then you see the anti-protest people in Aberdeen of all places, and then you see things like the video just I think Saturday, Sunday in Glasgow, George Square. You see like the the basically the Nazi youth back on the streets of Glasgow kind of thing again. I mean, yeah, it's disheartening to see it in Scotland, but I think we need to call it out. I think one thing I'd say is that um, I don't know if we have been having a conversation all this time, to be honest, because what normally seems to happen is that something horrendous happens to a black person or a kind of minority person, like a refugee or someone at a border or asylum or something, and then the white people all go silent because they think it's the right thing to do to let the black people and the minorities speak, which is true. We need to hear their voices and we need to listen to them. But but unfortunately, the system is not under their control. The system is under the control of
yeah.
the white people. So if we don't then speak and do anything about it, then that's not a conversation. That's us just listening. And that's the problem. All we've ever done is listen. There's never been any action. We've never talked even about doing action, never mind carrying out action. So I don't think it has been a conversation. Certainly not on our part, on white people's part. I think we've just kind of listened and thought, okay, yeah. And then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, it goes quiet. We move on, kind of thing.
So what do you think? What do you suggest that we should be doing to continue this momentum until we see change?
It's not an answer that's going to excite anyone, unfortunately, but politics, people need to get invested in politics, We don't really teach it in primary and high school because people think it's an interest subject, but they think that because they don't know anything about it. Now, a lot of it is very boring, but if you want real change of any degree, you need to be voting for people that represent you. You need to be voting for people that have the right morals, the right character, that have the right policies. I mean, we talk about this being 2020 and it's some kind of glorious, year. We think, oh, we're so advanced and it should be great. And then you realize, well, we've got Boris Johnson and we've got a Tory government who are pro Brexit, won Brexit largely because of an anti immigrant kind of campaign. We've also got Trump in charge of the most powerful country in the world who I don't even need to start about how much of a racist he is because it's just obvious. So it's not the best of times in the world right now. It's not the most open and accepting time, and I think for too long the sane people of the world, the progressive people of the world, have maybe been too complacent about that they think they know best without doing any action. It's like, well, I'm not a racist, so I'm okay with that, and my friends aren't racists. But it's the racists and it's the nut jobs that seem to be running for power, seem to be getting votes. I think we need to step up our game, and hopefully these kind of situations, COVID, the protests, the police brutality, George Floyd, sadly it takes these kind of sparks in events to really outrage and motivate people enough to say, you know what, this far and no further. I'm going to run for this council position, or I'm going to run for this legislative position. I'm going to run to be whatever, and that's how you get real change. Because I mean, are the Conservatives going to change anything? No, they've got 4 or 5 years to play out, so they don't need to change anything. Same with even COVID. I mean, COVID's not even it has a racial element to it because BAME people are more affected by it, unfortunately. And the report says that's due to racism in large parts. But they're just going to hopefully sweep that under the rug in 4 or 5 years. We need to make sure that we're voting them out the whole time, whole time. We need from the bottom up. We need councils, we need government, we need parties, we need the parties to represent the people, but we need the people to get interested. You know, I think we've got in Europe, the UK has probably one of the lowest voting turnouts in Europe, and that's really sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's it's. I think you're right about we need to be more focused on politics, the kind of people we choose to lead us, the kind of people
Yeah.
we choose to govern our country and our institutions. That's very true. But would you say that you the looking at what is happening globally now, especially in US, would you say the UK is better than in terms of police brutality against people with color? Would you say the UK is better than the US?
Obviously, I can only speak from my perspective as a middle-aged white person who has very few run-ins with the police. And when I do have run-ins with the police, they're almost always positive kind of thing. But I can still see outside my bubble. I'd say the UK is better. I think that's because in the US, there's some fundamental differences in the policing there. Over there, police is almost a different race. They even see themselves as a different race. You know, the whole Blue Lives Matter um, iconology. I think one of the biggest problems in the US is yes, there is systemic racism without a doubt, but I think the biggest problem with the police force is that they truly, utterly believe and are trained to believe, and it's drilled into them that they are a force upon themselves, that they are the law, not that they serve the law or they protect the people, but that they are the law, so that anything and everything they do is justified and within the realms of the law, because I think you see that when you see countless times where excessive force is used against people of all backgrounds. Well, let's not say all backgrounds. Poor people, basically poor people in America, and poor people over here will be the ones that get harassed mostly by the police. You know, you don't see people getting pulled over. A white person who driving a Porsche, for example, getting pulled over and then getting thrown to the ground and arrested. That just doesn't happen. Doesn't happen ever. If it's a black person doing it, they'd probably think they'd stolen the car and arrest them. So I think over in America, it is much worse. The police force there has been militarized, and when people have the kind of equipment and tools that they have, they see them as toys and they want to use them. You know, if you've got that Humvee sat there that's decked out, armored out, and you've got full riot gear, you know, if you get a chance to use it, they're going to want to use it. So I think it is better over here. Um, but I think there are still very much similar problems as well.
Yeah. So looking at the current protest that is happening globally, everybody's into it from the US, Africa, the UK, down to Aberdeen. Everybody's against this Black Lives Matters. Everybody's protesting. It's like after COVID-19, the next most uh, talked about subjects about the Black Lives Matters. So do you think that with the attention that has been given to this issue now, do you think we are going to see change, or do you think this this will be the last issue? This will be like definitely changes will come because everybody's into it, everybody's supporting it, so everything is going to change. Or do you feel it's just one of those things? We'll talk about it for some time, then
Yeah,
we go back.
yeah. Um, Obviously we hope it's a big time of change. I think it will be. I think it's went too big. I think it's been too viral. It's went too big. It's impossible to miss. And especially with modern day cameras and video footage, you just see it more and more and more. And you know, you got to, I mean, say that's 5%. What we see is 5% of what actually happens. Then you
Yeah,
know that's terrifying. And I think there's a lot of people that lived in kind of ignorance because they didn't see it, they didn't know about it, they don't experience it themselves. But now with the amount of video evidence, you can even they will start to turn around and say this is insane. But again, I think I would go back to my other point. I think there will be changes, but how much will those changes be kind of um, just for face value, you know, and how much of them will be real, deep, systemic changes, kind of thing. And again, unfortunately, it's not exciting, but that's where politics comes back to it, because politics can react quickly, but typically for systemic deep changes, it's a slow process, and it's a slow, hard fought, hard won process, and you need to have voices in these chambers of power to really push that change through. I think we will see a lot more people running, hopefully, for positions and things like that, especially in America, obviously. Over here, hopefully too. Um, but yeah, I think to get real change, we need to be aiming for 4, 5, 10 years down the line to to keep applying the same pressure and the same passion that we've got in this moment, but to organize and to really make it count, to use it to focus all this energy into a positive outlet. I think is the key to see real change.
Yeah, that's true. So it's a progressive movement, and it doesn't we don't expect to see change all of a sudden. But as time goes on, we get to see things changing. We get to see less police brutality against people with colored skin. We get to see changes in political position and all those things. Um, I remember I think I saw on Twitter when one of the MPs were asking the PM Boris Johnson about his takes about the leadership of the U.S. President Donald Trump, and his response towards it was that he addressed, he talked more about how the U.S. is an ally to the UK, and
Yeah,
although he made a few statements that what happened to George Floyd was appalling and it shouldn't happen to any but I think it should not just end there. I feel he refused to let it known that this issue is not being handled well in the US, and the UK is against it, but didn't it just didn't hit more on that point, and which one of the MP that actually asked that question from Scotland, and she was not okay. She was not happy. I thought she was not happy with the answer that was given by the PM regarding
yeah.
that section. So with you and other people supporting, what will you say to those who are against it? What will you say to those who think that, oh, it's not my business? What will you say to those who feel that, oh, I don't care about it. I'm not black. I'm not in the minority. Right? None of my business. What would you want to say to them?
I think now more than ever, there's probably never been a better time in the world to realize that things that happen around the world quite clearly influence you. I mean, look at us. You are sat in a lockdown, and you
Yeah,
have been for the
yeah,
last 2 to 3 months, four
yeah,
months, because of stuff that happened around the world. The entire planet is in lockdown because of what happens around the world. So the idea that it doesn't affect me, that surely has been blown out of the water. And when it comes to like Black Lives Matter, I think again that's why we need to be so focused, because it can be so easily hijacked. I hate people that use that word, but it can be so easily hijacked by like the counter media. The narrative can be written against that kind of movement and against what we're looking for when things like statues get graffitied, and all of a sudden we spend more time talking about statues than we do talking about what the Black Lives Matter protest was about. We spend more time talking about history. Um, yeah, I think we need to stay so focused. But the idea that we live in a bubble has to have been burst by now. I mean, if people still think that, then why were they in isolation? Why have they been quarantined for so long? It's so clear that what happens around the world affects us. If you don't think that American politics and what America does, its positioning, doesn't affect us, then just look at what you just said. You know, our prime minister couldn't condemn the words of Donald Trump because he's too reliant on the trade deal that he needs to set up with the USA. So he made a financial decision over a moral decision. Is that the kind of leader you want? Someone who will take money over his morals? But I mean, even Boris, if we talk about Boris, um, he has a horrible history with black and minority people. He's the person that talked about picking any smiles on black people in Africa. He's the person that disparaged Barack Obama because he talked about, well, because he's got like a Kenyan background, that's probably why he's more hostile to the UK. So the guy that talked about letterboxes, referring to people wearing burqas and stuff like that. So did I expect him to say anything? No, there was no chance Boris was ever going to say anything that was going to upset Trump. No chance.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So does this bring us back to what you said earlier on about the kind of people who choose to lead us, the kind of people that make decisions for us. But that's true. That's very interesting. So do you would you say now I'm tempted to use Aberdeen, but Aberdeen because that is what we can relate to more. Personally, I've lived in Aberdeen for a very short time,
Mm.
and I wouldn't. There are certain reaction I get that I wouldn't say is racist. It's racist reaction, but when you look more into it, you feel you can relate it to racism.
Mm.
For example, I've had some friends complaining that sometimes when they board the bus or maybe long before the COVID-19 issue came, that when they're walking on the streets, then some white people get into the it's coming up opposite them. The moment they see them, the moment they realize that the person coming towards them is black, they tend to cross to the other part.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just don't want to. I don't know how to say. I don't know how to say it, but they just don't want to have any kind of body contact with any person with black skin,
Yeah.
or something. I feel the moment they see a black person, they feel unsafe. They see danger ahead, so they kind of try to avoid to give a
Yeah.
gap, to give a distance. Things like that they have effect on we when we see things like that. It kind of affect us indirectly or
Mm.
like I can say directly. It kind of affect us because we feel unwanted, we feel we feel rejected in a
Yeah.
way. You understand? It doesn't happen all the time, but there are things. Some of us we overlook it. Some people too. It has influence on them. It affects them and all those things. I love Aberdeen. Aberdeen is nice. For me, I think Aberdeen is as compared to some of the places I've visited. I feel
Mm.
Aberdeen is more friendly to black. That's what I feel that it's more
Mm.
friendly to black. But the point is that Aberdeen can be the voice of Scotland in terms of racism. Aberdeen, Scotland can be the voice of UK in terms of racism. UK can be the voice of the world. So that was why I was very impressed when I saw the outcome of the protest, how the white people came, how people supported, the love was shown, which your post also we may was really acknowledged and we really appreciated as people from the black community, we really appreciate it. Now, me being a black student in Aberdeen, saying this kind of things will make me feel belong, will make me feel, oh, I'm welcome here, will make me feel that, yeah, though there's racist issue out there, but where I am is safe. But what about our brothers and sisters in other places that are not safe? We need to be their voice. We need to speak for them. We need to make
Yeah.
them know that Aberdeen is speaking for you. Aberdeen is standing with you. That was why I was very happy with the protest. I was very happy with the turnout of the protest. And with you, your support, and everyone involved, it was massive. And it's something that every community should learn from. Everyone should learn from it. What you're doing, everyone should learn from it. And I'm really happy about it. But finally, before we end the discussion, what I know you've said something about the politics, the kind of leaders and other things, but um, at what point are we going to say that, oh, okay, this protest was successful, this fight has been successful? And what are the things should we look out for to say that this thing indeed has been successful?
That's a tough one. I mean, I don't know. Um, the first thing to do would probably be get Trump out of office and get America back on some kind of track of sanity, I imagine. But I mean, that's hard because I mean, you talk about if you were to look back at like MLK's March for Freedom, things like that,
Yeah,
would you now think that was successful?
yeah,
Given what's happening, things like that, was that a successful march? Well, yes, it got like voters' rights for freedom, things like that. So that was successful. I think again, I would personally, I would deem it a success if 4, 5, 6, 10 years down the line, we have a political system and a political landscape that more embodies the moral views that we are fighting for here. Because if we don't have that, then that shows that this energy was wasted. This energy was wasted. Like I said, it's easy for a couple of statues to come down, but the statues weren't important in the first place. We didn't. Yes, you might walk past them and you might read the memorial plaque, but even if you read the memorial plaques, you wouldn't know they're a slave trader because the memorial plaques don't even reflect them. So the statues were never really that important. They should come down, obviously, but but even if they do come down, that's not systemic change. That's not a change. If we rename some streets and things like that, that's great, but that's not going to release systemic change. That's not going to reduce the racism. That's not going to increase the diversity that we see in our leaders or that we see throughout police. These kind of positions of power, they need to represent the communities more. And to do that, you really need to be in charge. I think like the left and progressives, we want what's best, but we can't use all of our energy campaigning and protesting. We need to use that energy and passion to instead make sure we can be the change. And to be the change, you need to be in power. That kind of sucks, but it's true. You need to be in power. I think on a broader note as well is that although we're talking obviously about racism and Black Lives Matter and minorities and things like that, I think there's a whole socio-economic layer to it as well that's massive. It's the poor people really at the end of the day that always pay the biggest price. And unfortunately, the poor people more often than not are minorities, blacks, because they don't get the opportunities because the underlying racism still exists as well. Also, we don't educate about history. So yeah, I mean, what you said about people kind of crossing the street or looking at you strange,
Yeah.
I would hope that COVID-19 has opened everyone's eyes to that, because I mean, I'm well aware of why we all want to stay 2 meters apart. So you kind of do a swerve and you dodge people. But, it doesn't feel great when someone's walking towards you, looks at you, and then starts to move out of the way and swerve. Now, they're doing that to stop the spread of the virus. But it still feels weird and it still feels a bit unsettling. I hope people now realize, wait a minute, this is what black and minority people go through every day. We feel a little bit uncomfortable because someone's swerving us because of a virus. It's like, but black and minority people deal with that every day because of nothing more than their skin color. So yeah, like I said, real change, real education, these things, it comes down to politics again. So unless we are in positions of power, and unless we're kind of toppling these ridiculous governments in the UK and the US and Brazil and things like that, then I don't think it will be a success. I think we need to look at the political landscape, and I think that's the biggest measure of success that there is. Yeah, it's not a very exciting answer, unfortunately.
That's very that no the answer that's it's very okay. It's very good and very understandable. And also, what would you say to your black friends, the black community out there, black people all around the world? What would you want to say to them as David?
As David, I mean, I would, excuse me, it's hypocritical, but I would say that Scotland is a really welcoming place. I mean, everywhere has racism, everywhere has bigots, ignorance, and idiots. But I'd say that Scotland is a much, much friendlier place. We do tend not to judge on background. We're very hardworking, we're very friendly. Yeah, I would say come to Scotland. I know the UK is not a welcoming place just now, but Scotland still is. And I would love more people to come here, and to really people that emigrate are throwing everything out there. They're putting everything on the line, and they're going somewhere to work really hard. And I'd love to have that kind of energy and passion in Scotland. Yeah, that's what I would say. And keep up the fight.
Yeah,
Gotta keep up the fight.
yeah, that's really good of you. And trust me, we are proud. We are proud of people like you. We are proud of our brothers like you, and we really appreciate it.